Hello everyone and welcome to another Gran Turismo car profile where we are looking at the Chevrolet C7 Gr.3 car. It was the most recent Beat the Meta that we have done. So let's talk about this car a little bit before we get into the car profile. So this is based on the Callaway C7 GT3 car, loosely based on it anyway, or mostly based on it, with a slight twist in the car. It's an engine, it's got a V8 engine, and in terms of the engine layout, it's front-engined rear-wheel drive with 6 gears. So that's what you need to know about that. Now, in terms of that gearbox and the engine, it's got a lot of power really low down in the rev range. So you do short shift this car. So just keep that in mind when we do this test as well, if you're wondering why I'm actually short shifting. Now, in terms of these car profiles, what we do, we take a good look at the cars. We test the fuel, we test the tires, we test it around 3 circuits with the balance of performance that's in Gran Turismo, which is low speed, medium and high speed. At the moment, they're the same, but we will still test all 3 circuits. Without further ado then, there is the car. Let's jump to the first track, which is Laguna Seca for our low speed test. So with this one, we're just doing 10 laps of the circuit. So we've got the out lap, then 10 laps. And I'm going to show you my fastest lap in each case. We don't take the fastest laps, we take the optimum laps because it's very much easier to do an optimum time in one lap in terms of one sector than to try and do the optimum lap all in one go. So we can take the best one there. Now, our fastest lap so far is in the Audi R8. So we're going to compare fastest laps during the lap. And we are 39 thousandths down on that Audi R8 in sector 1, which is probably to be expected. This is more of a handling circuit. It's an MR car, the Audi R8, so it will be good here, I suspect. But we'll see how we go in this Corvette. Heading towards the kink. I did have to be careful here. However, on the exit, I could really abuse all that exit in this car versus other cars. I wasn't really worried touching the gravel there, so very much you can be aggressive in certain scenarios here as we go through the left and then the right down here. You do have to be careful in second and third gear, I found, in this car as we go through here. We're now 2 tenths down on that Audi R8 then, so we are losing out to that car as we head through this final sector then and head towards the last corner. Now, I did find the brakes were a little bit rubbish in this car here, actually. I had to brake earlier than normal for this last corner. Again, you can see I just missed the apex a tiny bit there. That is why we take the best optimum sectors to actually give us our overall performance. But we look at our fastest laps. As we cross the line there, 2.5 tenths down on the Audi. Not too shabby in the grand scheme of it. But let's actually have a look at the overall times then here at Laguna Seca across all the cars we've done so far as we wait for that leaderboard to come up. Okay, here we go then. And you can see Chevrolet is in P2 there. It's slap bang in the middle of the Ford GT, which we did previously, and the Audi R8, which was the first car. So, slap bang in the middle there, about where I'd expect it to be. However, the whole point of having balanced performance is to bring those cars closer. For our medium speed track then, we head to Suzuka, and this was my fastest lap at Suzuka, very much near the end as I nearly go off there at turn 1. Now, I was trying to be really aggressive. This car is so stable in turn 1, I could be aggressive. In the 2 previous cars, the Ford and the Audi, I really struggled with oversteer going into that corner, especially the Audi really struggled in that corner. However, here, it's more just trying to fight the understeer that this car inherently has because of its layout of being front-engined rear-wheel drive. Through the first set, so we're 3.5 tenths down there on the Audi R8. Again, expected, I suppose, but we do have this balance of performance. It needs to come closer, and this is why we're doing these tests, to really figure out where cars have good strengths and where cars have bad weaknesses, and hopefully maybe Gran Turismo can actually work on maybe bringing this closer. Maybe they can use this, I don't know. We've done this before and we're doing it again. Going through here then, we're nearly 4 tenths down now on that Audi R8 as we head into the hairpins. We lost a little bit there through Tidgney 1 and 2. So we continue on out of there and continue on round here towards Spoon. So this is where I expect this car to pick up a little bit. It does have good top end. As I say, you can see I'm short shifting there at 3/4. That's about where you can short shift absolutely fine. You can actually short shift earlier in this car. You just don't want to over rev it. You don't want to go to the red line as we go through Spoon then and head into the second part. Again, you're going to see some of that understeer here as we go through that left-hander. Continue on out. You can see that I was trying to get it back with a bit of second gear to third gear. And you do have to be careful with that. Second and third gear, lots of power oversteer in this car. It really just does spin those wheels up as we head towards the set time then. So that time, still 3.5 tenths. We've come down a little bit. We've actually gained on the Audi R8 then as we go through there and head towards the final corner then. The Casio triangle as we go through here. Looking for a 159.382. That's what the Audi R8 got then as we head towards the line here for the fastest lap in the Corvette. What are we going to get then as we cross that line? It's a 59.718. So again, we gained a bit more time there, just heading towards that 3 tenths off now. But even so, we are off them. as we're now going to have a look at the leaderboard, the overall leaderboard here for Suzuka. And where do we fit then? Oh, okay. So it's only 2.5 temps in terms of optimum times there. So you can see that is a bit closer then between those two cars there. So Suzuka looking fairly okay. I don't mind if a car is a tenth or two off. And that's what it's looking like there, to be honest with you. Heading towards high-speed track then, we're going to jump to Bathurst for this one. And this is where I expect this car to really push on a little bit. As I say, it's got a lot of grunt there, especially low end. When you go to that final gear, if all the grunt is down in that lower end, obviously it's going to really perform really well. Now, the Ford GT actually has a faster lap here. You can see that down in that bottom right-hand side. What are we versus that? Oh, we are 19 thousandths down on the Ford GT. I'm not too sure versus the Audi looking at this, but again, we'll have a look afterwards where we are versus that Audi. Heading up the hill then, not too bad there. A bit slow out of that corner, to be honest with you. But again, this is the fastest lap I did, and I was really pushing on throughout all these laps. Coming into here, I talked about second and third gear being very iffy. There, especially in this car, really struggles. Obviously, not as much weight over those rear wheels as the MR car, so it does struggle when you're going uphill there, getting some of that power down and going for it there as we go through the left-hander then. Look at this, beautiful stuff. Didn't really suffer with understeer at the highest speeds, and coming through here especially, it just was planted. Absolutely could fly through there as we head down the hill, or to the downhill section then. And we're actually a tenth up on the Ford GT then, down to a 1 minute 1 there. Up on that 1 minute 1.7, should I say, as we continue on through. So purple sector then, really good at that little dip there, really strong there. It really did push the car forward, and arguably it was just so much better than the Ford GT, and even more so than the Audi. The Audi was so sketchy there. Continuing on down the hill then, we're heading towards the end of sector 3, where we're going to go with this one then. So we go down this long old straight, which is obviously where this car will perform. And oh wow, we are 3.5 tenths up now. Remember that Ford GT was nearly a second up on the Audi, so we are really far up now at this moment in time as we head in towards the left-hander then. Get it slowed down a little bit of an outbreak there as we continue on through. That could cost us a little bit of time here as we head towards the line then and in towards the final corner. This is why we take the optimum sectors, not necessarily the best lap that we do because of small mistakes like that. But let's see what it does in terms of the final lap time then as we head towards the line. Now, what are we going to do here? And oh wow, yes, we did lose a bit of time there to the Ford GT. Lost what, 3 tenths there? So 38 thousandths up on that Ford GT as we get a bit of oversteer there. But even so, it's still got the purple lap. So the fastest lap overall done here in terms of the video so far. And oh, optimum wise, 3 tenths. Look at that on the Ford GT. First car into the 201s. First car in the 201s, and actually 1 second ahead of the Audi R8. So the Audi R8 on this track needs a buff, but on the other tracks, the other cars need a buff. So very interesting indeed. So here we are with the fuel test. I've started them at the end of the pit lane the exact same times as we continue on through here then. And on the top left, you can see it's maximum RPM. On the right side, it's quarter shift, and on the bottom, it's quarter shift plus the fuel map. You shouldn't be using a fuel map unless you absolutely desperately need to. So that is the reason why we're only using fuel map 3, because fuel map, as we know, is the worst way to save fuel. The best way is with the short shifting, and this is the idea of this test, is to see. I've also enlarged the fuel so you can see it a bit better. It also helps me while commentating on this. As we head to the 2,500 meter line, which is where we're going with this. And actually, unusually, the quarter shift has beaten the maximum RPM to the line, which is quite unbelievable. It does show you this car loves the short shift. Even quarter shift is better than revving it out. Now, 3/4 shift seemed to be the best when I did the time trial and beat the meta, but even so, you have that information right there. That's actually unbelievable that that happened. Literally straight after that, maximum RPM gets obviously with much lower fuel, so why would you even use that, is what I'm trying to say here. And then, of course, down at the bottom, we have the quarter shift plus the fuel map, which then gets to the line there with 59%. And obviously, that will save more fuel, but it will cost you in terms of performance because you saw how much longer it took to get there. The big news in all of this is that quarter shift being faster than the maximum RPM. It shows you some of these cars are so gear dependent in terms of their performance that it really needs to be known. So obviously the Corvette, you go 3/4 shift for the best, I found, and then it was, you know, a quarter shift doesn't really impact performance, as you saw there. So we have the overall times there on the leaderboard. So you're probably like, Tidge, what does all this mean? So we've got the Ford GT at the top. Obviously, fuel map 1, it's 28 fuel, and it obviously did it in the quickest time. So obviously, it's the fastest in a straight line. The Corvette there, quarter shift, 48 on the fuel, and it's equal to the Audi R8 at fuel map 1. It shows you how much more fuel you can save on this Corvette. It really sips the fuel, and it doesn't hamper performance at all. Very critical, that very critical performance of fuel test there, and it really shows that if there's a fuel race, that's the car you're going to want to go for, it seems like, so far. Now, obviously, you can go down that board then. You see the fuel map 3s, etc., and the performance. And you can see the Audi just suffers massively from going to fuel map 3. You really wouldn't do that in the Audi because it suffers with power. Basically, the lower the performance in power of a car, the more it'll struggle using fuel maps. And that's what we're sort of gathering here right now and what we're seeing. So in terms of the performance then, what we have on the right side is all the +0 times. And then literally the time that is closest to the next one. So usually you'd have all the fuel map 1s at the top, except in this case it's the Corvette with the quarter, which is up there. But you can see it's very close to that fuel map 1. We then go to the a bit further down with the quarter shifts there. We know that from last time, the Ford GT. Now the Chevrolet Corvette, in terms of fuel map 3, doesn't lose a lot of performance in terms of using fuel map. So the Chevrolet Corvette, actually, the best with fuel map as well, because it's got all that torque in the lower revs. So obviously, as it's in that lower rev range, it can just use that power and push itself forward. A very interesting test, this one, for the fuel in terms of the Corvette. Really has shown that the Corvette is the best fuel saver, is a short shifter, and it's very good with fuel map. I mean, it's everything in one there. It's 3 tenths quicker, essentially, than the Ford GT in terms of that fuel map in the losing performance. To its actual fastest performance there. So very interesting test that. Very interesting indeed. Like, that's just blown my mind, essentially. But fuel is not the only thing we've got to do here. We also have to do a tyre test, and that's what we're going to do here. So it's times 50 at Daytona, and all we're going to do is keep the inside line as much as possible and keep going round until the first tyre wears out. So this is what we do. We just accelerate all the way round, foot to the floor, don't change anything other than the gear, of course, and we're going to fast forward this now. And what we do, we take the total time until that tyre wears out. Now, I did talk last time about FR cars potentially needing another test in terms of the tyre wear, and if we do an additional tyre wear test for both FR and MR, I will make sure to update the tables accordingly. And the reason I say this is because as we get towards the end here, we've done 2 laps now, the out lap and the flying lap, and we're still carrying on here in terms of the tyre test, and it's just gone there, and you can see we're 11 seconds into lap 3, which, if you've got really good memories, we know this means this car is very good on tyre wear. But with tyre wear in Gran Turismo, one thing that always has to be mentioned is that weight plays a factor. With it being front-engined, obviously there's more weight over the front, therefore the rear tyres don't wear as much as the MR cars, so obviously they're going to suffer more. Let's pull up that leaderboard then, and the Chevrolet Corvette, no surprise, is at the top of that leaderboard. We'll see how it goes on as we go through this. We may split it just FR and MR and go via that method. We'll see how we go, but you can see the leaderboard there. In terms of the overall summary then, the Chevrolet Corvette comes out on top. So this is the the optimum laps combined across all 3 tracks, and the Chevrolet Corvette is top. It's actually the best car so far. So if you're going to pick a manufacturer out of those 3, Chevrolet is looking like a good one in terms of Group 3. That is it in terms of this car profile. If you did like it, give it a like, subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with all the latest content. We are on a journey to 40k, and I appreciate all the support. Is there anything that you think I've missed in this car profile? Let me know in the description. If you want to see something different, let me know as well. I read all the comments, and I'll be happy to make any adjustments where needed and do any additional tests that you may want me to do. I'll say that is it for me. Another car profile to check out, or beat the meta in this very car. Thanks once again for watching, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.